I made my son give up the house that his grandpa left him so his stepsister wouldn't feel left out, but now he's cut contact. My wife says I went too far, and I'm realizing I might have torn my family apart over a lie I told myself about fairness. I'm 55. I have a son, Evan, who's 25, from my first marriage. His mom passed when he was 11. I remarried when Evan was in high school to my wife, Latrina, who has a daughter named Faith, 22. We've been married around 8 years now. Evan and Faith were never close. They were polite to each other but didn't hang out or bond like siblings. It was fine though. I figured time and maturity would sort it out. Latrina always wished they'd get along better, but she accepted it for what it was. Or at least I thought she did. When my dad passed away last year, he left behind his lakeside house. It was an old family property, paid off, where we used to spend summers. It had sentimental value because it was tied to Evan's late mother's side. Her parents helped build it decades ago. In my dad's will, he left the house entirely to Evan. No mention of me, Latrina, or Faith, just Evan. When the will was read, Latrina didn't say anything at first, but I could tell she was uncomfortable. Later, she mentioned how it must feel odd that Evan got everything and that Faith, who's been in my life for years, got nothing. She said it didn't seem fair when we'd been raising both kids under the same roof. At first, I brushed it off. I told her my dad had every right to leave it how he wanted, and that the house meant something specific to Evan. But over time, the tension built. Faith started acting cold toward me. She'd make comments about how some kids get lucky. She'd barely look Evan in the eye when he came over for dinner. Latrina started saying things like, "You don't want this resentment to grow," or, "If it were reversed, wouldn't you want things to be equal?" She'd talk about how families fall apart over inheritance, and how she didn't want ours to. I told her the will was done, that it wasn't up to me. But she kept saying, "You're his father, you can talk to him. You can make this right." I didn't see it as manipulation then. I saw it as trying to keep peace. I told myself that making things fair would prevent long-term bitterness. I started believing that if I didn't do something, we'd all drift apart, so I went to Evan and talked to him about sharing the property with Faith. He wasn't happy about it. He said the house was his grandpa's gift to him, and that it meant something personal. I told him I understood, but that I wanted both kids to feel included. I told him it would mean a lot to me if he gave Faith partial ownership, that it wasn't about money, it was about family. He didn't argue much. He looked tired more than anything. After a few weeks, he signed the paperwork making the house 50-50 between him and Faith. I thought it was the right thing. I felt like I'd done what a good father and stepfather should do. Latrina said I was being fair. I thought I'd kept our family together. For a while, everything seemed fine. Evan didn't visit much, but he texted occasionally. Faith stopped with the snide comments. Latrina acted lighter, happier. I assumed the tension was finally gone. Then 6 months later, Evan stopped replying to my calls. I figured he was busy. After a few weeks of silence, he sent me a short message saying he was done, that he wanted no contact. He said I'd betrayed him and that I should ask my wife where the house went. I had no idea what he meant. I went to Latrina and asked if she'd heard from him. She looked nervous and said she didn't know what he was talking about. The next day, I got an email from Evan with documents attached. Faith and Latrina had sold the house, the entire thing. Apparently, Faith had gone to a real estate agent a month earlier and, with Latrina's help, processed the sale. Evan was never informed. His name had been signed off using power of attorney authorization that shouldn't have existed. The proceeds were sent to an account that Latrina managed for the kids. I confronted her, and she insisted she didn't know it was finalized, that she thought it was just paperwork. She said the money was safe, sitting in a shared fund that both kids would benefit from. But when I asked to see proof, she got defensive, said I was being dramatic, and that I should trust her. Evan, on the other hand, was furious. He sent me screenshots of everything: the emails, the sale confirmation, and the bank transfers. Latrina had signed on Faith's behalf, saying Evan had agreed to the sale. It was a complete lie. I tried reaching out to Evan again, to explain that I didn't know any of this, that I thought I'd done something good. He didn't respond. He just blocked me everywhere. Latrina now says I'm overreacting, that the money is for our kids, and that it's no different than leaving them both something. But the thing is, it's not her money. It wasn't even mine. It was my dad's gift to Evan. And I made my son give it up because I didn't want my stepdaughter to feel left out. But the truth is, I didn't want to deal with conflict. I didn't want to see Latrina upset or Faith resentful. I told myself I was keeping peace, but all I did was hand over what wasn't mine to give. I don't even know if I'm looking for judgment or advice. Maybe I just need to admit it out loud. Update 1. I read every comment on my original post, and while a lot of people were harsh, I can't even be mad about it. I did screw up, but I also didn't realize just how deep this all went until now. After the post, I tried to sit everyone down. I told Latrina and Faith we needed to talk properly. I didn't go in angry, I just wanted answers. Latrina acted calm at first, but the second I brought up the house being sold without Evan's consent, she changed. She said she didn't know the details, that maybe Evan was confused, and that there was probably some misunderstanding with the paperwork. It didn't sound right. Faith didn't say anything, just kept scrolling on her phone like she wasn't part of this. I decided to call the lawyer who had handled the ownership transfer months ago. I told him I wanted to confirm what documents had been filed. He didn't want to say much at first, but after some convincing, he told me that Latrina was the one who had contacted him about the sale. She presented herself as having full authority for both kids, using documents I had never seen. Apparently, there was a power of attorney form signed by Evan that gave Latrina permission to act for him in real estate matters. That form wasn't from the original property transfer, so someone must have forged it. When I heard that, I just sat there, completely still. I asked if the house was sold legally. The lawyer said as far as he could tell, everything was processed correctly on paper, so it couldn't be reversed easily. Meaning whoever had done it had gone out of their way to make it look legitimate. I tried calling Evan after that, straight to voicemail. I left a message saying I'd found out about the sale, that I was looking into it, that I wanted to make things right. No response. Then that night, I got an email from him. Just a few lines. He said that I cared more about keeping up appearances than standing by him, and that he didn't want to hear from me again. That was it. I don't think I've ever felt that kind of emptiness before. I sat at the kitchen table for hours, just staring at it, trying to understand how I let things get here. The next morning, I confronted Latrina again. I told her I'd spoken to the lawyer and that I knew she had arranged everything. She didn't even deny it this time. She just said she only did it because Faith needed help and that the house was sitting there unused. She said she thought Evan would come around once he realized it was for the family. Then she said she hadn't told me because she knew I'd overreact. Overreact. That's the word she used about stealing my son's inheritance. When I asked about the money, she said it was being used responsibly. I pressed for details, and after a lot of deflecting, she admitted that part of it went toward paying off Faith's student loans and part toward a down payment for a condo Faith wanted to buy. The rest, she said, was gone to household expenses and family needs. Translation: gone. That's when I lost it. I told her she'd lied to me, lied to Evan, and ruined everything my father had wanted for his grandson. She told me not to be dramatic, that we're a family, and families share things. She kept saying Faith deserved help too, that it wasn't fair for Evan to get everything. I reminded her that the house wasn't mine to give, that my dad had left it specifically to Evan, and that she had no right to touch it. She started crying, saying she was just trying to make things equal and that I was being cruel for choosing Evan over her and Faith. That's when Faith finally decided to speak. She told me Evan had always been my favorite, that I never treated her like a real daughter, and that at least now things were even. She said Evan had everything handed to him, and that it was time someone else got a chance. I didn't even recognize her in that moment. I just walked out of the room. I didn't trust myself to say anything else. That night, I went through our finances. I logged into the joint accounts and started tracking every transfer from the past 6 months. Almost all of the house money was gone, transferred in chunks to Latrina's personal account, Faith's account, and a few payments that looked like credit card debt. There was nothing left. No fund, no savings, no plan for the future, just gone. I spent that night in the guest room. The next morning, I packed a bag and left. I didn't tell Latrina where I was going. I checked into a hotel across town and sent her a text saying I needed space to think. She tried calling me non-stop for 2 days. I didn't answer. The truth is, Latrina has done this before, in smaller ways. I can see that now. Whenever things didn't go her way, she'd twist it into a moral issue, make it about fairness, family, inclusion. And I'd always give in because it was easier than fighting. But this time, it cost me something I can't fix. I've tried reaching out to Evan a few more times. Texts, calls, emails. He hasn't responded. The last message I sent him wasn't to explain or justify anything. I just told him I was sorry. No excuses. Just that. He didn't reply, and I don't think he will. Latrina came to the hotel 2 days ago. She was crying, saying I was throwing away our marriage over money. I told her it wasn't about the money, it was about trust. I told her that if she had come to me, if she'd been honest, I might have found a way to help Faith myself. But she took something sacred and turned it into a transaction. She tried to make it sound noble when it was just selfish. She said she did it because I always put Evan first, that she felt like an outsider in her own marriage. I didn't even argue. Maybe she really felt that way, but none of that justifies what she did. I'm still at the hotel now. Haven't been home in over a week. I don't know if I'll go back. The house feels poisoned now, not just literally gone, but everything tied to it. Update 2. Since moving into the hotel, I started looking through everything. Bank statements, emails, anything that might explain how this all got so twisted. I'd been ignoring a lot of stuff for years. Latrina handled most of our finances, and I just signed where she told me to. The first thing that stood out was how fast the money from the house disappeared. The sale had brought in a lot, enough to set both kids up for years if handled properly. But in just a few months, most of it was gone. Faith's college debts were paid, she had a new car, and apparently she'd gone on some expensive trips. Latrina claimed it was all from a shared fund for both kids, but when I checked, there was no fund, no separate account, no trace. The money had been funneled through our joint account and scattered into various payments. I went to see a financial advisor because I knew I was out of my depth. Within a week, they called me back looking disturbed. They'd found several ones I had no idea existed taken out under both of our names over the last year. Most were small but consistent, slowly building up into something ugly. When they added up the totals, my stomach turned. Latrina had been borrowing money we didn't need and repaying old loans with new ones. When I confronted her, she didn't even deny it right away. She tried to talk over me, saying it wasn't what I thought. Then she said she'd done it for us, that she didn't want Faith to struggle, and that my father had been unfair for only leaving the house to Evan. She said she was just trying to make things right. She kept talking about balance and unity, but all I could hear was her trying to justify theft. When I pushed further, she broke down and admitted part of the truth. She said she was scared that if Faith didn't get a fair shot, I'd stop seeing her as family. I told her that was nonsense, that I'd always treated Faith like my own. She looked me dead in the eye and said that wasn't true because she wasn't really my stepdaughter. That was the moment everything stopped making sense. Latrina told me Faith wasn't her biological daughter. She was her sister's kid. Her sister had left when Faith was a baby, and Latrina had raised her ever since. She said she kept it secret because she didn't want people to think differently of her or of us, that she didn't want me to think she was damaged goods. I didn't know how to respond, not because of what Faith was to her, but because the whole foundation of our so-called family had been built on a lie. For years, Latrina used the idea of fairness between both kids to guilt me into every decision. Every time Evan got something, she made sure Faith got the same, and I went along with it because I thought I was being fair. I thought I was keeping the peace. But now it was clear that it was never about the kids. It was about Latrina needing control, needing everything to look perfect from the outside. After she told me that, I couldn't stay in the same house. I left again and called a lawyer to ask what I could even do. They said the sale was legal since Evan had willingly signed over ownership. Recovering anything would be complicated, maybe impossible. But I decided to try anyway, mostly because I owed it to Evan to at least make the effort. A few days later, I got a message from him. It wasn't angry this time, just cold. He said he'd heard from extended family about what Latrina had done and that it didn't surprise him. He said he hoped I figured out who I'd really been protecting all these years. That hurt more than any shouting match could. He was right. I filed for legal separation that week. I told Latrina it wasn't about revenge, it was about responsibility. She told me I was throwing our life away for pride, that I was choosing money over family. I told her she'd already made that choice when she sold my father's house behind my back and lied about where the money went. She tried to make me feel guilty again, saying Faith didn't deserve to suffer for adult mistakes, but I couldn't even respond. I was done listening to her redefine what family means every time she needed something. The night before I left for good, she kept saying we could fix things if I'd just come home. I didn't. I packed my things from the hotel and rented a small apartment closer to work. It's quiet here, sometimes too quiet. I keep waiting for Evan to text again, but I know it won't happen anytime soon. Update 3. Once I filed for legal separation, I met with the financial advisor again to dig deeper into what happened to the money from the sale. I had frozen some joint accounts by then, and the advisor had been tracking the movements between different ones that Latrina had access to. I didn't understand most of what I was looking at, but even I could tell something was off. There were large transfers and cash withdrawals that didn't match the story Latrina had told me. She claimed she used the money for both kids, but the paper trail showed otherwise. Most of the money went through a business account I didn't even know existed. The account was in Latrina's name, but the business was listed under Faith's. It looked like some kind of boutique or fashion store. It had been registered about 3 months after the house was sold. The money my father left the house that was meant for my son had been used to fund that. My wife had helped her daughter, or niece, whatever term applies now, start a business that was already failing. When I confronted Latrina about it, she didn't deny it. She said it was an investment and that she thought she could turn it around. She said she had planned to pay it back eventually, that I was being dramatic. She didn't seem to care that it was money stolen from Evan. I think that's when something in me finally broke. I told her she wasn't the person I thought she was, and that I was done trying to make sense of her decisions. She just told me I was heartless, that Faith needed support, and I'd never understood what it meant to love unconditionally. I didn't respond to that. I just packed my things and left again. I went to stay with my sister for a few nights while I figured out what to do next. A few days later, Latrina's brother called me. Apparently, she had gone to her family and told them that I'd cut off her daughter financially and left them homeless. That wasn't even close to the truth, but her version spread fast. Suddenly, I was being painted as some kind of villain who stole from Faith, when the reality was the opposite. I got a few nasty messages from her relatives calling me disgusting and heartless for abandoning a young woman who wasn't even my blood. The irony of that wasn't lost on me. I decided to stop responding and just focus on cleaning up the damage. I told the financial advisor to start the process of separating everything. My lawyer warned me it would be difficult to recover anything tied to that sale, since it was done legally, even if under false pretenses. That part hurt the most, knowing Evan would never get back what was his. I had been the one who convinced him to share the house in the first place. I made him trust me. Then I let people I cared about destroy what he had left. Latrina and Faith moved out of the house last week. She sent me one last text saying she hoped I was happy ruining her life. Faith sent another saying I'd destroyed her future. I didn't reply to either. There's nothing left to say. They made their choices. I made mine. I went over and the house felt empty. Not just physically, it's the silence. No noise, no movement, no arguments. I thought I'd enjoy that peace, but it's heavier than I expected. I've been going through paperwork every day trying to sort out the financial mess. I froze all shared accounts, sold off what I could, and opened a separate account for myself. I also made sure Latrina can't access anything tied to me anymore. The advisor said I'll probably need to file for bankruptcy if the business debts she took under my name keep growing. That part still doesn't make sense to me. I didn't even know about that business. But apparently, as long as my name was attached to any of the accounts used, I'm partially liable. There's a point where you stop feeling angry and start just feeling tired. That's where I'm at now. I'm not mad anymore. I'm just done. Final update. It's been about 8 months since everything fell apart, and I've spent most of that time alone. After my last post, Latrina and Faith had already moved out. They didn't go quietly. Her family blasted me online, calling me heartless and blaming me for ruining the lives of a woman and child who weren't even mine. I didn't defend myself. For once, I stopped explaining and started fixing. I hired a new lawyer, wrapped up the financial investigation, and began paying debts that weren't mine. Most of what I thought we owned was gone. Faith's boutique had collapsed, leaving unpaid vendors and loans in my name. I sold the cars, investments, even the house, just to clear it all. I wanted no part of that life anymore. Once everything was settled, I used what remained to set up a small trust fund for Evan. It wasn't much, but it was clean, no strings, no guilt. I didn't tell him right away. I didn't want him thinking it was another manipulation. Months passed without a word. I'd send short updates, nothing emotional, just what I was fixing. He never replied, and eventually I stopped expecting him to. Then, out of nowhere, he texted, saying we needed to meet about estate paperwork. Not personal, just business. I didn't care, I just wanted to see him. We met at a small cafe halfway between our towns. He looked older, grounded. No hug, no smile, but he sat down. That was enough. We handled the paperwork in silence. When it was done, I told him I was sorry, not the kind that hides behind excuses. I told him I'd sold the house, ended things with Latrina, and finally saw how badly I'd failed him. He said he appreciated the honesty, but trust doesn't reset just because someone finally tells the truth. He said I'd always cared more about being the good guy than being a good father. He wasn't angry anymore, just tired. That word tired cut deeper than anything else. He left after that. No hug, no promise to talk again. But he didn't block me either. Maybe that's something. After that meeting, I stopped chasing redemption. I realized what I'd called love was really ego trying to make two families coexist when they never could. I forced fairness where there was none and kept pushing when I should have stopped. Latrina filed for divorce soon after. She tried to claim emotional distress, but her financial mess killed any chance of winning. The court left her with what she'd already taken. Last I heard, she and Faith were staying with her sister, still blaming me for everything. I don't respond. Now I rent a small apartment near where I grew up. It's quiet, empty, but peaceful in a way I'd forgotten existed. I'm done justifying myself. I can't undo what I did, but at least I stopped pretending it was ever about fairness. It was always about fear, and now I'm finally living with what that cost me.